Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back one more time to the Pilates Goddess podcast. I thank you for showing up. I'm doing it. I'm showing up twice a week for you guys, and I thank everybody for showing up for me twice a week. We're now over 5,000 downloads. We have a few sponsors, and I'm really happy and excited. And I'm excited to see where this podcast goes in 2023, which quite frankly can't come soon enough. I'm kind of over 2022. I would like 2023 to start soon. I have a really fun guest today. My guest today is one of my neighbors. He's turned into a friend. We're Zooming right now, but he's right downstairs. He's one floor below in the corner by the elevator. And today, my guest is Greg Davis Jr., who is best known under his handle Klarity. Greg has established himself as one of the top comedy content creators. He started many moons ago on Vine, which, some of you might remember, bringing his unique sense of humor and style to all his content. And I'm letting you guys know, because he might not, that all of the old Vine content is still available online. It is still archived. You can Google Klarity Vine, and the videos come up. Yes, they do. So Toni and I have watched them. And I've also had, the joy of seeing Greg do live stand-up as well. He was a series regular for 3 seasons on TBS's 10 Items or Less, had a recurring role on Lincoln Heights, has guest starred on The Shield, CSI New York, and other shows. He's been in 2 feature films, The Eyes and Unbreak My Heart, and the Toni Braxton biopic, where he played L.A. Reid. Greg is passionate about fitness. That's actually how we met. We'll kind of tell that story of our official kind of meeting with each other. Empowerment and charity, and his digital voice and business endeavors are reflective of this. He is the founder of Enzo Industries, a production company with a mission to deliver authentic and inspirational stories on screens big, small, and mobile, with content that reaches a global audience that's hungry for change, positivity, and leadership. And currently he's focused, he doesn't even mention what I'm going to tell you, but currently he's focused on a character-driven 12-episode digital series, Johari's Window, which was accepted at the Golden Short Film Festival in Rome. And he's been really focused on doing stand-up. He's been doing some touring, hosting skills, and will star as the host of Uninterrupted's new digital series, Put You On, a fast-paced, open conversation spotlighting up-and-coming athletes. And that's in collaboration with Nike. But, something that he actually didn't put in his bio, but we're going to, mention it here, is that he has a short film called Season of Joy that has been picked up by Amazon Prime and is actually premiering tomorrow, December 21st. We're filming this a little bit in advance, but this will drop on Tuesday, and the short film is coming out on Amazon Prime on Wednesday. So I encourage you all to see it. Greg is extraordinarily talented. And welcome, Greg.
Thank you. That was great. That was wow.
Don't you love it when people read your bio? You're like, because we all write it, we copy paste it, and other people look at it and we're like, yeah, whatever. But then you hear it read and you're like, oh shit.
Oh wow. Is that me? What's she talking about? That's me. I want to talk to this guy. Who is this guy? I want to talk to him. When's he coming on?
He's also done. So Greg and I live in the same building. You might have gathered that from our, he's one floor down discussion. Mm-hmm. But we actually met when Amanda and Brandon Tress were here doing some networking for the Faster Way to Fat Loss program. And, you know, the Faster Way to Fat Loss program is now just like gangbusters, just insane growth. They've done such a good job. But they came, I was a beta Faster Way to Fat Loss coach, and, you know, had done business with Amanda for years. And I walk into this bar where we're meeting in Chelsea, and the first person I see is Greg sitting at the bar. And I'm like, oh, hi. And we knew each other from the elevator, right? We knew each other from the lobby.
Yep.
And I said, so why are you here? A very tactful way. Yeah. And he said, well, I guess I'm kind of an influencer.
Yeah. I remember.
And I was invited to this.
Yeah.
To meet these people and kind of see what they're doing.
And
that's, you know, I think the first time that we really kind of hung out.
Yeah.
And talked to each other. And then, you know, we've been kind of hanging out and talking to each other on a regular basis.
Yeah. It's true.
Ever since.
So
talk to me a little bit about getting into stand-up. What was that like? And I'm assuming you did some stuff before you started on Vine, or did you just go all in?
No, I hadn't. So the funny thing about Vine is that, you know, well, comedy in general, I was always very insecure about comedy. You know, I loved watching comedy growing up. Watching stand-up is some of my favorite things to do as a kid, right? In middle school, I really fell in love with Jamie Foxx's stand-up. That was like the first stand-up that I was like, oh, this is funny. Like, I just liked watching it. He was relatable at the time. He did characters of people that I knew. So I loved watching stand-up. But in terms of becoming an actor, I never wanted to be a stand-up comedian. I just watched it, right? My parents liked the cleaner comedy. So in my house, we weren't allowed to watch like the other guys. I had to watch like Sinbad and stuff, like the cleaner comics, you know.
Okay.
Wasn't too much.
Like the George Carlin household. That wasn't you. No.
Nah, my mom was too religious for that. My dad didn't care, but my mom, you know, can't curse in the house. So my dad was the complete opposite, but nevertheless, so I grew up watching comedy, and I loved watching comedy. It's one of my favorite things to do, but I never thought I'd become a comedian. I always thought I was going to be a basketball player, NBA player, whatever. That's what I wanted to be when I was a kid. So that was the first thing. And then when I got to like middle school, high school, you know, I just still wanted to play sports, basketball, football. It wasn't, you know, comedy wasn't on my mind. I was always a child actor, but I never knew I wanted to continue that until I was almost about to graduate high school. And I realized I wanted to move to LA and become an actor, which is why. And then at that time, when people I had to really look up to were like Denzel and like, you know, Fishburne and, you know, Blair Underwood, like serious actor. So, and that, you know, comedy was never considered like the you know, nobody's winning Oscars for, you know, for comedy too much. Right. So, you know, I always just thought to be to be taken serious as a serious actor, you know, you have to be drama. So comedy was never something my strong suit, in my opinion, in terms of an actor, or in my head what I wanted to be. And so then when I started getting formal training, I never really necessarily got comedy training. I was insecure about it because I was like, I don't know how to make people laugh. And the funny thing is, people tell me funny all the time, even as I got older, like, I'm just so funny. And I'm like, I'm just being myself. I'm just talking shit. Like, I'm not,
right.
I'm not trying to be, but I've always been told that. But, you know, in retrospect, you know, when I think back, some of my friends, I just ranting and riffing. Like, oh my God, you're so funny. I'm like, ah. So at any rate, but in my younger days before Vine happened, I was an actor. And to wrap it up, I was always insecure about comedy. So I never wanted to do comedy. I would get called for comedy auditions and I would like skip out on the auditions or like make up an excuse why I couldn't go. One time I just didn't go to one and I almost got in trouble. My agents, but because I just didn't want to go in the room and look silly and look stupid and like embarrass myself. I was like, if I'm not good at something, I'm not going to do it. I never thought I was good at it. I just thought I was better at just being dramatic and sad and all that stuff. That's easy, you know, but being funny, it took a skill. So at any rate, fast forward years and years of acting, I moved to LA a week after I graduated high school, and that's all I wanted to do was just acting and drama. And Vine came about later on, like in 2013, like 10 years later after I moved to LA. But up in that point, I never pursued stand-up. I didn't start stand-up until 2018, like 4 years ago. And that was we'll get to that story. But in terms of like Vine, I had been in LA for 10 years. I had been through the business up, down, every way, sideways. I moved to LA when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And like it, you know, I went through every emotion you can imagine, every hardship you can imagine. But again, like one of the things I got was like this comedy series called 10 Items or Less. And how I got that was one of the auditions that I skipped out on, funny enough. That was the one I tried to sabotage myself because I wasn't confident that I could do the job that it required to be funny. I was afraid, I was going to be found out as a fraud or whatever. And so throughout the years, I kind of got burnt out of acting, a lot of broken promises. That's a very tough business to be in. You got to make sure your mental and your emotions stay up to par. And I had been gone for a minute. At any rate, I had a couple of friends that knew that I was an actor, and I ran into like this chance meeting with the cast director on the street. I kept running into people, and they said, "God does things in threes." When it comes to confirmation, I kept having separate people in different areas of my life who weren't connected, asking me like, "Hey, are you still acting?" Like just general questions about acting and getting back into it, etc. And so I had already started thinking about it, right? But I wasn't sure because I was burnt out and I had a bad taste in my mouth. Around that time, there's this app that started to surface as I was thinking about getting back into the business called Vine. And primarily people had used it for like, just like stop motion. It wasn't anything that, it was really popular or artistic or anything like that. People used it for stop motion, and like that was what it was done. But we kind of took it and then like we brought a whole new style to it with like skits and stuff. And because I was told like I should get back in it, like I didn't really care, what I was doing. I just wanted to get in front of a camera, period.
Right.
And at the time, a cell phone was that camera. So I didn't really care what it was or, if it was a cell phone camera, just to knock the rust off. I just wanted to get the practice to knock the rust off. And if it was a cell phone or not, like I was going to do that. Right. So that's what I started doing because I had finally convinced myself. I was like, all right, I'm going to, I'm going to give this acting thing a try again, and I'm going to just do it, right? I'm going to just do it. But for me to have practice, I'm going to practice in front of this little phone. And so me making Vine videos was just me practicing to knock the rust off as I knew I was going to have to get back in the room again and start auditioning. That is the only reason I even started making Vine videos, never thinking anything was going to come from it, could come from it for anything. I was just like, if I finally got convinced to start being an actor again, I thought I was going to have to go audition again and do this kind of stuff. I wanted to get comfortable. So I would make these videos and put them out, not thinking anything was going to happen with it. And especially because we were doing things that the app wasn't created for, just to like get comfortable. And lo and behold, a whole different thing started taking control, a life of its own. I started getting posted on Facebook and just all these shares. So I didn't intentionally seek to become a Vine star or comedy creator. I would just make things that I essentially found funny, the irony that I laugh at, that I find in my brain, not knowing I had a comics brain this whole time. But I would just find stuff funny that most people wouldn't find funny. I would find humor out of it. That's what comedians do. They find situations that make most people uncomfortable, don't want to talk about it, and they have the brazenness, the ability, and the balls, should I say, or the fortitude, excuse me, to really like tackle that issue and not be afraid of it. And that's something I always had. But I did that in video form before I even was a stand-up comic. So that's how Vine came about. And then my videos started just going viral, and I was getting reposted on Facebook page and here and there. I started getting all these followers, and the rest is history. We all know what happened with Vine.
Right. But by then you already had your following, right? We had the start of like the influencer economy, that we're in now. So suddenly, people know that people want to watch you. Then you made a pretty, what looked like a relatively seamless move over to like Instagram and doing Instagram videos and short form videos there.
Yeah.
Right. And then kind of continued with that expansion. I did want to kind of hone in on a second on all of the mindset issue and imposter syndrome that you sort of brought up there.
Let's talk about it, because that was real. It was real.
It is real. And, I talk to my Pilates teacher clients about this a lot, because there's such a kind of lack of confidence that so many teachers bring to the table, where they're really not sure about themselves and about, their presentation skills. I think I told, when we were talking in the lobby the other day, I was telling you how I didn't like my voice for so many years. Like even as a kid, when I first heard my voice on, one of those old cassette tape recorders, and I was like, ew, who's that? What is that? And meanwhile, I've been a teacher, I've been a philosophy professor, I've been a Pilates instructor. I was, the vice chair of the National Women's Students Coalition. I mean, obviously I've been making, a life and money off of my voice and my skills at presenting for a really long time. I just never thought about it. I just always had that sense that I'm not great at this, and I'm not, and maybe I won't try things, kind of like you not going to the audition.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I never really embraced that term imposter syndrome, or really understood what that was, if that was a real thing, or knew that ever applied to me. Because I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought that these were some of your pure thoughts that you would battle. But you're right. Those are all real things. And I didn't know I had that. I just thought that I was doing myself a service, but it was masked. It was fear. It was imposter syndrome masked as, oh, I'm just trying to do the best thing for me, or I'm, I don't want to dishonor or whatever. And meanwhile, we're like removing ourselves completely out of the playing field of purpose and plan and destiny and what we're supposed to be doing.
Right. Because what's the worst thing? What is the absolute worst thing that happens? You go to the audition and you don't get the part. Like, seriously. That's like the worst possibility in the scenario is you go, you waste, a few hours of your day, and you don't get the part.
Yeah. You
ended up getting the part anyway.
Not only did I end up getting the part, I got the damn show, and we were on the air for 3 years.
Right.
And it's just like, that's one of those testimonies that when something's for you, it's for you. Yeah. When something's meant to be yours, it's yours. And that's the other thing. When something's not meant to be, it's just not, and, when life, destiny, God has something for you, man, there's nothing you can do, or there's nothing man can do to stop that or interrupt that. And sometimes we ask for these blessings, but it doesn't come in the way that we want. Right. And I've always, entertaining was always something that I know I was born to do. I mean, I'm still doing it all these years later, and I make a livelihood off of it. So clearly it's a gift that was given to me. One of them that I could, build a life off of. But I could have still and still can step in my own way. But it's about answering the call. It's about not looking to be blessed in the way that you want it to look. A lot of times we miss stuff because it doesn't come in the form that we thought it was going to look, or the people don't come in the form of how we thought they would look. And so we miss it. And social media, Vine, the very thing that comedy, the very thing I shoot away so many times, the very thing that has me in position in life to where I am right now, to even be here, to be having this conversation with you. Comedy saved my life. Entertaining saved my life. God saved my life. But if you would have asked me, this is the way I was going to make it, I would have told you crazy. I was coming to be an actor.
Yes. Yes.
I took Shakespeare in school. I did, actually. In high school, I was in the theater program and all of that. But I didn't ever do anything, so I just wanted to play football. So I auditioned to get into my magnet program in high school because I was out of zone. It was an acting school, but when I got in, I didn't do anything. I just wanted to play sports and be a little hoodlum. So it's like, the fact that I'm acting now is just an irony. It's ironic in itself. But
well, I had a moment the other night. We were watching we were watching a film, and Denzel Washington's son,
John David,
was in the film. And
was it Amsterdam?
Yeah, we were watching Amsterdam.
How was that?
So good.
I know. I was going to watch it last night. I was too tired.
Is so good.
I know.
And Christian Bale's like,
he's not even a human anymore. He's an AI.
So method and so in the role.
Yeah.
But what was very interesting to me was I met Denzel and his family at a Christmas party, at a New Year's party at Parrot Key at one of the homeowners' houses. And at that time, his son was not looking to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
His son was playing football in college. And his daughter was going off to graduate school. So we were kind of all talking about, academics and things like that. And then it was really interesting when I saw him because he's a great actor.
He's a phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty good football player too, actually.
Right. And he's doing that work. But I saw him and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Last time, admittedly that this was a while ago, I was like, last time I saw him, he was not going to act. That was not a thing. It was not happening.
No.
And now here he is and he's really good at it. And, I think Denzel and his wife just wanted their kids to do what they wanted to do. Like most awesome parents. So,
yeah.
So that was interesting to me to kind of see that happen.
Yeah.
Now, you grew up in the South.
I did.
As a Black man in the South. Which I know couldn't not have been easy.
No.
At all.
Still isn't.
Right. No. And being a Black man in New York is not so easy either. I am definitely one of those folks who is extraordinarily aware of white privilege and really what that means. There's the white privilege, and then there's the middle-aged white woman privilege, which is a very specific privilege where nobody really looks at you and notices you.
Mm.
Yes, it is very, like, when it first happens, it happens around 40. Just so women listening, just know that. Around 40, everyone stops commenting to you on the street. Like, it all goes away. Yes, it just stops. Then you start getting these comments like, one time I got a comment, "You've got a really nice ass for an older lady." And I was like, I don't even know what to say about
funny.
that.
That's funny.
Right?
That's
I was like, here we are.
Holy shit.
Here we are in middle age. Or, one time when we were visiting New York before weed was legal, and we were on the subway from Brooklyn, I had an ounce in my bag.
Yeah.
Relatively, we were trying to do like foil and dish towels and whatever else.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in the train and two cops get in the car and I start losing it. And they don't even look at us.
Of course not. What are they going to look at you for?
Because we're this middle-aged white couple and we're just sitting there.
Yeah.
And
wait, what do you know about the aluminum foil trick? You was a pusher in your day?
It's been a number. It's been over 40 years. So,
Hey,
Yeah.
we all got to retire at some point, Lynda. It's okay.
We all have our tricks. Yeah. And you knew exactly what that was.
Oh, I do. I do. Yeah. Yeah.
But so, and I know, my husband has shared a lot with me about what it was like growing up in
Yeah.
the South and around the Panhandle,
Yeah.
within the, the military, because, his dad was in the Navy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a huge reader and always have been. And what was your experience like? And did you have to I mean, your mom is a force, right? And your mom is such a force of positivity. But how much extra work was it to kind of get to where you are now?
It was, I mean, not to sound like the typical story that they hear all the time that Hollywood likes to make, you know, public. But yeah, man, I mean, a lot. It took a lot, especially growing up in the South. I mean, I remember being a high school kid and being called nigga in traffic, and he weren't being hip either. It was a car full of us boys. We were 16, 17, and I don't know what happened, but by the time I knew it was happening, something, I don't know if we were on our way to school, and I don't know if my friend maybe accidentally cut somebody off. I don't know what happened. I wasn't really paying attention. All I know is that I was in the back seat. I was in the back. Okay, so here's the car. I was in the back left, and my friend, it was a guy to the right of me, my friend driving, and another kid in the front passenger. All black kids. We're on our way to school in the morning because we would ride together. Something happened. This car pulls up. This lady pulls up next to the car. She said something. My friend said something, and he has a mouth, so I'll be honest if he provoked it. And this time he was like, "What?" Like just kind of like we're on our way to school. She said something, and he was like, "Shut up." And then she was like, "Nigger," and like just drove off. And I was like, "What just happened?" And now, this wasn't in 60. This wasn't in 64 in Jim Crow era. Like this was in 2000, right. And this was like 2000 something. That's just the South. Trayvon Martin. I like to remind people. Trayvon Martin that was 45 minutes from where I went to school, from my hometown, Sanford, Florida. Like Zimmerman, like that. Like this is the South. Like these things happen. So where I'm from in Orlando, I mean that's just one instance. I can name a dozen, right?
Oh, sure.
Too many to count, but that's the South. You didn't know anything different because that's where it all took place. That's where Rosewood took place. That's where the South, the bombing of the church. I mean, just so many things took place. So, like, that's all you knew. It's like it's like being in New York. It's cold. It's like all I know is the snow. Sounds like somebody's like, "Yo, you live in New York. Like, what's it like to like see the snow, be in the cold?" You're like, I fucking cold. I don't know. It's been cold. It's been cold my whole life. Every time November to February gets here, I just can't leave the house without a jacket.
Right. Exactly.
I just can't go outside without.
My husband went from Florida to Lake Placid. So if we want to talk winter.
Jesus, that's talking about just a jump to the league from high school.
Right. Now,
but yeah, I mean, it was challenging. My father went through a lot of stuff. Race relations is definitely not missed and absent on me. I've had run-ins with the police. I remember one time my friend and my friend's dad, they owned a trucking business, so they were doing really well. So they were able to buy a house in this area called Windermere in Orlando. And it's a ritzy area, predominantly white area or well-to-do areas. And, not a lot of black families or brown families lived out there. So if you lived out there and you were black or any other race, you were doing something. And either you were doing really well or you had no business being there, right? Like how it always is. Hey, what you doing over here? Type of thing. And, to get to that neighborhood, you got to go through a lot of woods. And I remember it's such like the South, especially in those marshy areas, there aren't a lot of street lights. So it's dark a lot. And I remember just remember driving down the road to his house one time. It was super dark, and I would always put the high beams on. But one day I was driving and I put my high beams on. I was coming up in a car. Well, I couldn't see until I got up close, but I was coming up in a cop car. And I wasn't speeding or anything like that, but I had my lights on. I couldn't see, and I didn't feel comfortable turning them off. And once I saw it was a cop car, I definitely didn't want to turn them off because I didn't, any sudden movements. I just want to keep lights on. I wasn't thinking. I was younger. Like,
right. You were like, we'll just maintain and hope for the best. Yeah.
Yo, this guy like pulls over, lets me pass, pulls behind me, and like pulls me over. And like the reason after I got out, he was like, I pulled you over. And I was like, in my head, I wanted to be such a slick tongue so bad. Cause I know where I'm at. But he was like, oh, his reason was, oh, you had your high beams on and you flashed me. I was like, dude, you intentionally flashed me. I was like, bro, look at me and I look at you. I know where I'm at. I'm not stupid. Why would I intentionally and on purpose, why would I wake up today and feel like playing Russian roulette with my life with a police officer in the South? Like, why would I listen to what you're saying? And my dad didn't raise no fool. Like, I was in honors classes, AP classes. But I hung out, I was an athlete, so I hung out with the Roughnecks, but I was in kids and AP classes when I was in 11th grade. So I was a smart ass as well, which is like a recipe for if I was born in the 60s, I would have got lynched a long time ago.
Right.
Because there ain't no way. Where you going, boy? First of all, I'm a grown ass man. Right. Where am I going? None of your damn business. Let me see your papers. No, to my face. Like, I wouldn't have been a good slave. I would have gotten all the beatings, because I'm born in the right era. And so, he's like, when he asks me that, I'm like, I have no idea why you pulled me over. Actually, I'm waiting to figure it out. I flashed you. I took my high beams, saw a police officer, and was like, "Here, yeah, let me flash you." That's what you're saying? I don't know. Put your hands, and then try to make me give his ID, make me give him my ID. So I just remember at that point being like, "All right, look." And I had just started getting exposed to something called prepaid legal, talking to attorneys. So I'm like feeling smart about my rights. And then they call for this backup. 8 police cars at like in the middle of the night showed up, and it's just me. I'm not with anybody. I don't have nothing illegal in the car. 8 police cars, not police officers, cars. Which means if they all had a partner, it was about 10, 12, 16 officers out there.
Right.
For little old me, because this guy said I flashed him, and then I refused to sign the ticket because I was like, I'm not signing that because I didn't do that. And he's like, signing the ticket is no admission of guilt. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that. You could be telling me that. I don't know if this is true. So basically he said, if you refuse to sign it, you're going to jail. And I was like, well, I'm not signing that because I don't know anything. And I guess I'm going to jail today. Do you know they arrested me and took me to jail because I didn't sign that ticket? I had to spend the night in jail. I kid you not. I would tell you if I was disrespectful, rude, had something I didn't have a damn thing in that car. Only thing I had was my intelligence and the only thing I did was driving in Windermere where I shouldn't have been. They probably think I'm about to go do something. And I mean, that's another instance. I can go on. And this was all when I was between the ages of 16 and 20.
Hey, my friends, I know that recovery from any injury or surgical procedure can be a very long process, having been through many myself, but it's really crucial to come through it as fast and strong as possible. And of course, it's vital during this time to maintain muscle mass and strength, even during times when you have to rest in order to recover, because, proper nutrition accelerates the body's ability to repair itself. The good news is that there is a patented formula of essential amino acids clinically proven to accelerate muscle repair and growth faster than any protein source. I am so glad that I discovered Heal by the Amino Co. Heal is clinically proven to improve recovery from injuries or surgery. And it was originally formulated for astronauts to maintain muscle mass in space. I tried Heal and I love it. I have a meniscus injury in my left knee, and Heal is helping me feel better. I'll admit that I'm thoroughly impressed. It is a game changer. And if you are dealing with injuries, you're dealing with surgeries, you're just dealing with a lot of soreness and inflammation, I would highly recommend you try it. I like the taste so much, I'm keeping it for day-to-day use. I use the natural sour apple flavor, but they also have regular flavors like grape, chocolate, and vanilla. Lots of science behind this. This Heal formula was created by former Harvard professor and world-renowned clinical researcher, Dr. Robert Wolfe. Their science is unmatched. They've got 30 years of experience in this. You can check out the science and the products by visiting aminoco.com/goddess. That's aminoco.com/goddess. I have been on the lookout for something that could help me perform at my best and heal from within, with something that tastes good and is easy to make, and Heal is it. If you're looking for a nutritional advantage for optimal muscle recovery and maintaining muscle mass during periods of inactivity, I recommend you give Heal a try. And right now, if you go to aminoco.com/goddess and use code goddess, you will get 30% off and a free gift with every new purchase. That's right. Just go to aminoco.com/goddess and you will get 30% off and a free gift with new purchase. The link, as always, is in the show notes.
Actually, when this happened, I don't even think I was 20 yet. I think I was 18 or 19 because I think I just left, or I was just getting ready to leave early, which is why I couldn't get the hell out of Florida and Orlando, Florida fast enough.
Yeah.
And I never really went back. So yeah, growing up in the South as a Black dude, and that long answer, I mean, that's 2 stories of 100. I got 100 of them. But it is also, like I said, if you're from New York and you experience cold, it's just what it is. It's cold outside.
Right.
And you're used to it. It's nothing to be.
And it informs your work now. I mean, even in the show that we went to, you didn't shy away from the Kanye stuff. You didn't shy away from the discussions of anti-Semitism. You didn't, there was nothing there that you were like, let's just skip over that.
Yeah.
Because, I'm in this like mixed crowd of my neighbors. You were like, no, this is like shit that's going on that people really need to be discussing.
Yeah.
On multiple levels, because I'm Jewish and I lived in upstate New York where we experienced a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of that KKK stuff,
crazy.
And it informs really how you kind of walk around. That said, I think it also makes us stronger.
Yeah.
In so many ways. And luckily, we had the ability to kind of get out and get out of those situations and into the world. Now, your film that's coming out on Amazon Prime next week. I do remember when you were filming it. Because it is filmed here, and it's kind of a love letter. It's a love letter. It's a love letter to the city. It's a love letter to humanity. It's a great, I think, seasonal movie without being ridiculously Christmassy.
Yeah.
Now, how does that work? I'm kind of interested in how that works, how you go through selling a film to a major network in that way. You're not, I've taught Eric Eisner. I remember when he sold Long Strange Trip to Netflix. There's been things here and there. But how does that actually happen? How do you make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, maybe 4 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you, to be honest. I just found out because my partner, my producing partner, my writing partner, Hash, who wrote the film with us, and we have a very interesting relationship and cool working dynamic, but his professor is actually the one that told him about it, because our process this whole time has been trying to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality, moving forward, I don't even know if I want that anymore, to ever do that. Because like, you know, I think about it, you know, being that I have the, and it's tying back to social media, the one blessing that I got from social media was understanding the power of ownership and the power of knowing that if you build it, they will come. We were a bunch of kids that figured out how to get the world's attention in 6 seconds. The world. That was scary for entertainment. Look at the byproduct of what we started 10 years ago. You have all these streaming platforms. You have all, because we were taking the attention off of TV so much. Every kid was on their cell phone, and advertisers did not know how to reach people. Everyone was looking at YouTube. Everyone was looking at Vine. This is before Instagram had video. This is before TikTok. Like, this was before everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to figure out a way to advertise. People weren't even watching TV anymore. They were streaming. That's why streaming boomed. Streaming and watching content on the internet just popped, because that's where everyone is now. And that's what all advertisers do. They put the money in to where everyone's attention is.
Right.
And so, wait, I went off on this tangent. I forgot my train of thought.
We were talking about the process of
yes. So anyways, blah, blah, blah. Like, I learned about, like, they always say content was king. And like, I've always, before you could be a personality on the internet, like, Hollywood sort of controlled the purse strings. They controlled who became popular or famous, or they controlled it, right? Because there wasn't the internet or this much access to the internet, or you couldn't touch your fans or people. You couldn't touch them so easily, the ones that want to support you. There was no direct contact from consumer to talent. And once we figured that out, once we knew we could get millions of followers and we could post a video, it would immediately get watched or, you know, liked or whatever, you know, and then the amount of money that a lot of kids were making on YouTube and social media were just, I mean, insane amounts of money. Like, money that adults couldn't fathom, like millions, millionaires off of just creating their own content. So even if you had a distribution platform, if I'm somebody that could get 10 million followers, if I can get 10 million people to follow me on YouTube, why can't I get 10 million people to follow me on my own website? Why can't I get 10 million people to follow me on my own platform? Why do I have to go to Universal and sell my idea when, if I can get 10 million followers, or I put enough work in to get, if I collected data or emails of every single person that followed me, you know, then I could directly release, I could create my own film and do an email chimp or superphone or something, to where it's like, these are the people that like me. You're here for me. You don't go to the movies because Universal or Warner Brothers is such a great studio. You're going to the movie because of the talent that they put in their movie. You're going for Denzel's son, but you can't tell me the studio that produced Amsterdam.
Right. You
can't, because that's not the talent. But they don't have the power to shoot a movie for 100 million every time they want to do something. And they don't have the power and the relationships to get your movie in Hong Kong and China and India and America and the UK and Europe all at the same time. They don't have those distribution channels. That's the only reason studios, networks, and record labels are glorified middlemen. But the real talent is the person who grows Pablo, who grows it. And if you can get right to Pablo, what else do you need?
Right.
The talent is the guy who recognizes an opportunity to distribute this somewhere. It's like, I got what people want. I just need to get the word out. That's basically all what you're saying. When you're a singer, artist, rapper, whatever you are, if you are a diamond, all you need is for somebody to crack that door up a little bit so they can see you shine. Once people see that light, you can't hide it. So that's kind of what I figured out. So how do I go to this? We've been trying to sell it for 3 years, Lynda. I'm not kidding you. And then the pandemic was a large part of what screwed us, because the timing was just all bad. I shot this before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
we were
I
finished.
remember because I was always trying to have a conversation with you in City Hall Park when you were in the middle of shooting.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm literally shot right now. Like, I love you, but
and you were like, Lynda, not right now.
I'm literally filming. Lynda, listen. Lynda, listen. That's how they came up with Lynda, listen, because it was because of you. Always approaching people while somebody could be doing open heart surgery. You're like, so Greg, I'm like, Lynda, I am clogging this artery right now. I'm closing it up. Lynda, listen. Lynda, listen. But yeah, so, finishing for the pandemic. And then nobody was really trying to buy anything during the pandemic at first. No, everyone thought I was going to die. Like, I don't think anybody. So I just had a terrible time. And then after a couple of years, just so many people wanted it. We sent it to Quibi. The irony that Quibi didn't want it. But that's Hollywood and business people trying to enter into an arena that was way too late after we told them it was going to pop. They didn't want to listen. And then they saw it after the fact. It's like FOMO. You chasing a stock after it already popped. Right. That's what they did. And there was a big $300 million worth of garbage. And they failed because they don't have their ear to the streets. You can't just come in and think you can, just because you got money, just swing it everywhere. You can't just come in and just that's not that's not how that works. That's not how that works. So I realized slowly that as I made money on my own without agents, brands would contact me directly. Like when I did the Old Spice, they contacted me because they saw my parody videos on my Black Spice. And I'm like, oh, I get it. They just don't know how to reach the talent because there's how. But now we have Instagram pages. Now a brand could slide in your DMs technically if they wanted to. There's no right or wrong. Like if you're the PR person that's running Old Spice's or Nike's page and you see somebody you like, we're like one step away. Like, hey, we love what you do. We want to work with you. Do you have representation? We can go through them. If not, we'll deal with you. What do you want to do? A brand could talk to a talent now. Agents, managers, studios, networks are shaking in their boots. They're shaking. So, I started to realize that slowly parallel to as we tried to sell. And I knew it coming from the social world. I knew it, right?
Right.
But I didn't know it until I started seeing it happen. Okay, got it. I get it now. So naturally, the last maybe year, I've always wanted to be a business. So I have my own production company. I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I always have a business mindset. And the reason why I'm like this is my dad was the one that always he had a business. Him and his brothers talk about hard for Black men. They started a garbage truck company in the 70s. Him, my grandfather, and his brothers, they grew it to $1 million company in the 70s in the South, in Florida.
Right.
It's unheard of. So I have that. And my grandmother was an immigrant. She came over from Jamaica, moved to New York with my mom. They stayed in a studio, 1-room apartment that had every room, including the bathroom, in one room. And went to cosmetology school, got her license, became a beauty, whatever, esthetician, whatever you call the proper esthetician, I believe, that's a nail, whatever it's called, beautician, whatever, got the license, worked in the salons, killing it to the point where she was able to save up enough money. She opened up her own salon in New York City as an immigrant. I have it in my blood.
Yes.
My grandmother, no one ever told my grandmother what to do. She was the strongest Jamaican, old school, from the bush lady you'll ever meet. You're not telling her what to do, ever.
And I think, the biggest lesson here, actually, for so many of us is, what I hear from a lot of Pilates instructors is it's so hard to be on social media. It's so hard to deal with social media. I don't know what to post on social media. I don't know where to post on social media. And I've always said, find a platform. Find one that you can deal with. And preferably one that also does short form video, because video is good. Yeah. And just go for it. And just keep posting there and just keep posting there and just keep saying your thing and saying your stuff and talking about your thing. And people will come.
People will come.
And they will. And they do. One of my early video coaches, Mark Whitehand, he used to say, Lynda, stop worrying about who's watching. Stop worrying about how great the camera angle is. Stop worrying about all that shit. He was like, your phone has like a video camera that is so good that there's very few camcorders or, external video cameras you're going to buy that's better than that. You are just going to hit the button. You're going to go live. You're going to hit the button and you're going to start saying stuff about who you are and what you do. And that's what I did. And people were like, awesome. We want more of that. Because
they want more of you.
Right.
And your knowledge. Have you ever watched a great independent film back in the day that didn't have the best lighting, didn't look the prettiest, have the best sound, because it was good and it was engaging? You were like, oh.
Yes.
And have you ever watched a movie that they spent $300 million on and it has the best graphics and the sound and it's just like, this is a pile of dog crap.
Right. You're like, why did they make this? I don't even understand.
What this costs how many hundreds of millions of dollars? The point is, it's you. Right. And if you go to your point, I didn't have much. All I had was when I started making Vines, all they had was like iPhone 2 or iPhone 3. If you go back, since you said you could look up my old stuff, if you go back and look at some of my very first videos, you see how grainy and terrible it looks? But at the time, that was
right.
At the time, that in terms of cell phone quality, that was the best it was gonna get. So, but it wasn't anything that compared to TV with high definition TVs at the time. That's when HD was starting to pop off. And we already did. We were at the height of LCD and super clear and 4K, and I could have been like, man, and I came from a film background and I'm just like, man, it doesn't look good. And I'm like, just make it funny. Just make the content engaging. If it's informative, it's all that matters. If it's funny, that's all that matters. And build it and they will come because you're the knowledge, you're the talent, you're the difference. But the Bible says, my mom used to always say, be faithful over the few and I'll make you a ruler over many, right? Mm-hmm. You can't be trying to shoot with a high definition camera. You don't even know how to be consistent making content with your iPhone 11. Do that first. Because truth be told, these phones are now so technologically advanced. You can shoot an entire movie with this thing if you know how to play with the filter in Final Cut.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Steven Soderbergh, the famous director who did Ocean's 11 and all these other great movies, he shot an entire movie on an iPhone a couple years ago called High Flying Bird, just to prove the advancement of filmmaking. And so, which is one of the reasons we were able to shoot what we did, because I just have a team of people that are so amazing. We made a miracle happen, and God was on our side during the shoot. But we made New York City. When you watch the film, and I can't wait for you to watch it. We got shots that look like, movies that have $100 million budgets get those kind of shots, some of those shots.
Right.
And I think I wouldn't have been able to pull that off had it not been for my background and making it work with what I had, to your point, right? It gave me the confidence, having a background, being on social media for 10 years, or at that point, 6 years when I shot this. Had I not gotten confident with taking this cell phone and gaining a massive global audience with what's in front of me, making what I work had, I was faithful over the little. And now, if you look at what I make now, so even if you watch my film and then go back and watch my early Vines, you'd be like, it's cool. Even I'm going to do that to humble me. Be like, look at where I came from. Look where I started. But it started from somewhere, and you got to start from somewhere. And so how did we do this after we shot it? So after trying to sell it, and my partner, my writing partner, he said his professor said, what happened with that project you guys were working on, that TV show? He's like, oh, we're still trying to sell it. I think he was like, why? Well, because so we can so people can see it, we can make money, we can get a deal, we can do all this stuff. He was like, just take it to Amazon. And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, what do you mean just take it to Amazon? Just take it to Amazon. He's like, well, we have to buy. He's like, no, you can take it to them as, in sellers direct. And they film, music, anything. And he's like, are you serious? He was like, yeah. Now, not a lot of people know this. These are one of these industry secrets that they don't want to get out. Because that's the case, everybody will start doing it. And maybe everybody is, but it's still.
And maybe now everybody will. Do you hear that, my friends? Are we hearing this? You can go to Amazon Direct. And actually, you can probably go to a number of these networks.
Yeah, who knows? Might need to try them all. Try all of them. Start a bidding war. Like, hey, maybe I put one show. If HBO, but I think Amazon's different, but maybe Netflix starts to do it. Peacock, you never know. Because what's going to happen is, because what I did, I have my own production company. I started my own company. I own it outright. Well, I have equity partners. And because we shot the film, self-funded it, spent all the money, because we took it to Amazon and they accepted it, it's a 50-50 rev deal. It's a partnership. I'm not selling my intellectual property. It's just on lease. And at any moment, when I get ready, I can contact Amazon and like, yo, I want my movie back. Thank you. It's almost like a cancel anytime. Meanwhile, I've partnered, with the biggest, arguably the biggest distributor in the world.
Right.
I found Pablo. And I took 2 planes to Colombia and a small boat plane and crossed over military borders. And I bought the purist and I made a deal with the major distributor. I mean, it's funny, but I'm saying that's what I did. So now every dollar that Amazon that movie makes, I take 50 cents on the dollar directly to my company's bank account. And I can repeat this over and over and over. Why would I ever sell unless Netflix is like, we'll give you $500 million for your. I'm like, well, hell, take it, take it.
Right.
Take it. You can have it. But even then, I'm joking. But even then, unless you create Titanic, then that movie's making money forever. You got to be careful. Or Star Wars, you never know what you create. But the point is, that's how we did it. It's it took about 4 months for them to vet us. It was a 4-month grueling process. But I thank God for my partner Hash. He went through it all. So thank you to Hash and his professor, whoever his professor is. We owe him a big one too, and we thank God for people like that who are older, who don't mind sharing those secrets. That's the key. And that's the systemic. And sometimes it's not even systemic racism, but that's what they talk about when they talk about systemic racism. But that's a systemic thing, period. This ain't nothing to do with race. This is just like socialism and classism and the key holders and the gatekeepers who know this stuff. Because a lot of people don't know that.
Right. Right. And I think, we don't know what we don't know. We do the best. We take people's advice when we get it, which is what you did. You were like, oh, okay, we can go that way. Well, that's interesting. Let's see where that goes.
I mean, what do we got to lose?
Right. And that's, the global lesson, I think, of this story of Season of Joy, right? It's
Day of Joy. Sorry.
Day of Joy.
Yeah.
Is that you don't know until you try. You don't know until you try. So if you're, sitting there as a Pilates teacher, as a potential comedian, as a, someone who wants to be online selling your yoga programs or whatever it is that you're doing, you have to try. You have to get out there. You have to start doing it. And it works. And it really does happen.
Yep.
Right. And I think you, Greg, are, a shining star example.
Thank you.
Of that, of, busting it out, doing your thing, doing your thing, even when you didn't want to, doing your thing even when you didn't feel you were enough, doing your thing even when you weren't sure what was going to happen or where it was going to go. That there are no guarantees, but the more you put yourself out there and the more people start to like you and engage with your stuff. And again, it's that know, like, and trust factor, right? You did this before and this was great, and you did it again and it was great, and now we're doing it again, and we're going to assume now that it's going to be great, and we're going to fund that and move forward with that. Is that, you know, if you're just sitting there going, I'm too scared to do it, you know, I think our advice is hit that play button on that phone and start putting your stuff out there.
Amen.
Yeah. Again, what's the worst that can happen? What is the worst possible thing that can happen? Nobody watches your first video, so you make another one. And then people will go back and they'll watch them. Just like when I told you your Vine content was still, you know, freely available on a Google search.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh,
it's great.
Okay, good.
That explains some of those checks I still get from Google.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Because residual income is great income.
Well, that's another thing people don't understand. In this world, by building your own, you could still get residual income, and even more so because you are the IP and you own your IP. So no matter what, you now become the studio that can put a content claim on your own content if you see it floating out there. Yeah.
And this is where you know, that's why I trademarked Pilates Teacher Mastermind. That's why, you know, I keep close hold to my video content, and you know, there's reasons for that. Yeah.
It's smart. We're all becoming better business people and entrepreneurs because of it. That's what's important, right?
Definitely. So, Greg, if people want to connect with you and reach out to you, is Instagram the best place?
Yeah. Instagram, Instagram, Twitter, but Instagram. Just message me. I message back. And then, you know, if there's any really business opportunities, there's my business email, my representations email is on my Instagram. It's on my Twitter. So, you know, if it's about,
and I will have all the links for your Instagram, your YouTube, and your Twitter in the show notes.
Yep.
And of course, once the movie is premiered on the 21st, we'll have a link to the film in the show notes. But, you know, if you're on Amazon Prime Video, you can just go to Amazon Prime Video and look for Day of Joy.
Yeah, that's it.
And that will make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And know that you're not just buying a film. And look, you know, if it speaks to you, do whatever. I'm grateful for whatever. But what you're doing is you're supporting someone who's just went, like you said. Somebody who said, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going all in. And I put it all on the line. I put my money where my mouth is, literally, till I had no more. And, you know, you're supporting the vision and the dream of all of us that just say yes to ourselves and we're not waiting. So that's what you're doing. And more things like this can happen if more people supported those who just took a chance on themselves. So like you took a chance on yourself. You talked about this podcast for months. And now here we are months later. Now you have 5,000 listeners. You took a chance on yourself and you just said yes, Lynda. And we are the dreamers. You know what I'm saying?
We are.
Yeah.
We are. And this can happen at any time. It could happen at any age.
Oh, yeah.
And you just want to go for it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Greg, for joining us on the Pilates Goddess podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored. I had fun.
It was tons of fun. So guys, if you enjoyed this and if you like listening to the podcast, I would, as always, really appreciate some ratings and reviews. So the best places to do that are on the Apple Podcast app. They don't let you do it online anymore. You actually have to go on the app and do a rating and a written review if you're so called. You can also rate the podcast on Spotify, where they don't accept written reviews, but you can rate. And I also have a link to Podchaser in the show notes, in every show note, where anyone can go and leave a rating and a written review if for some reason, you're not on Apple Podcasts, you're not on Spotify, you're someplace else. And with that, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.